Welcome to the joint webinar from FCA UK and ACE on the future of contract catering. I'd like to start by welcoming our panel, Noel, Wendy, Matthew and Liz, and in a few moments I'll ask each of them to introduce themselves. Just before I do, I would encourage you to use the Q&A at the bottom of the screen to pose questions to the panel. We will select a few of those questions to pose to the panel later on in the session. As you'll be aware, today's webinar is hosted by FCA UK and Ireland and is in association with ACE, the Association of Catering Excellence. I'd just like to ask Chair of FCSI, Matthew, just to explain what the FCSI is all about.
Thank you, Wendy. The FCSI UK and Ireland is the professional body for catering consultants in the UK for design and management consultants, and we are part of a worldwide body which is the FCSI worldwide.
Thank you. And Sue, can I just ask you to explain what ACE is all about?
Yes, of course, Karen. So good afternoon, everybody. So ACE, as Karen said, is the Association of Catering Excellence, and it's an organisation that brings a group of people together really for networking purposes. We would ordinarily have 4 events a year, and under the current circumstances, that's not been possible. So we're doing some webinars and we're doing some virtual quizzes just to really get people together to socialise and to share great ideas.
Thank you, Sue, and to Matthew. Matthew, can I just come back to you for a second and just ask you to introduce yourself in terms of your day job and what it is you do?
Yes, my name is Matthew Merritt Harrison. I'm the managing partner of Merritt Harrison Catering Consultancy. We are a consultancy that has been in existence for over 25 years. We advise in business and industry. We advise government, healthcare, schools, and retail catering, such as visitor attractions.
You're off. Everyone mute.
You're on mute, Karen.
You're mute, Karen.
You're on mute.
Sorry. Sorry, there's me trying to keep quiet in the background. Sorry, Noel, can we ask you to introduce yourself?
Karen, hi. I'm not on mute. I'm Noel Manny. I'm the co-chief executive of Baxter Story and Portico. Baxter Story, obviously a business and industry business operating in the UK, Ireland, and we've got some business in Northern Europe. And Portico, our front of house reception and concierge business.
Fab, thank you. Wendy?
Wendy Bartlett, and we're Bartlett Mitchell. We're a contract catering, a niche, smaller organisation. I've been in contract catering pretty much all my life. In fact, I've worked with Noel, Sue and Matt in a previous life.
Fantastic. And last but not least, Liz.
Right, my name's Liz Rose. I'm a principal consultant at A&E Catering Design. We design commercial catering facilities, have done since 2002, but a long time before that elsewhere. And basically that's from concept right through to handover, detailed design, specifications and on-site project monitoring.
Brilliant, thank you. Right, let's get on to the topic for debate today. What's the future of contract catering? Matthew, can I come to you first? What's your take on what the future is?
I think we're going to see major changes over the next 2 years. Very serious challenges going forward. There's going to be lower levels of sales as customers work from home, potentially longer opening hours, so social distancing. So increased cost for the caterers, but reduced income. And that is going to result in cash flow and working capital problems for some. I think we'll see a reduction in the size of companies. Some of them, which have been built up over many years, will end up as parts of mergers or acquisitions. And the most vulnerable are probably those who are in a particular segment. So for example, if you've got work in schools and hospitals and B&I and retail, you are less exposed than if you are a bespoke boutique caterer in a particular area. And I think We've already seen the reducing of overheads in terms of salaries and staff, and some of the contractors were already having to raise capital. So we're going to have some serious challenges going forward. On a positive note, I think the issues that we've seen over the last few years of recruitment and retention of staff will disappear. But with the largest overhead being workforce, we might well see particularly head office workforces be reduced. And there will be new startups as people are dispersed. Some will become new contractors and some will become consultants.
So let's go for a different view. Noel, how do you see the next 6 months panning out, and then looking to the next 12 and the next 24 months?
Matthew just threw me off guard there when he said some would become consultants. I hadn't quite considered that, but thanks, Matthew. I think some of what Matthew said is right in terms of his observations on the sector. I do think, though, we're an incredibly resilient sector, particularly our sector, very agile. We're used to having to change very, very quickly. And people who have built their businesses in growth mode or not for many years, I think will do their absolute utmost, will give every fibre of their body to make sure those businesses continue. There will, of course, it's not feasible for businesses to be able to continue if they lose significant volume and aren't able to adjust their cost base at the same time. And that's an issue for our sector, all of us, large or small, it really doesn't matter. We have the same challenges to deal with. But I do believe beyond the next 6 months of significant uncertainty, I mean, choose a number for forecasting at the moment for the last quarter of this year based on consumer confidence, public transport in London, how many people will come back into buildings. All of that's going to be very tricky for organisations to be able to predict, and we all like predictability. I think as you move on into next year, assuming the government, and this is obviously our desire, assuming the government do something about a review of the 2 metre rule and amend the 14-day quarantine ban that we have at the moment, I actually do think we'll see consumer confidence come back. And I think you will see a different contract catering sector emerge, but nonetheless a very, very strong one, but maybe with less players for a period of time.
Thank you. Wendy, what about your thoughts? How does the long term look for B&I catering?
I think that it is a challenge, and you could get very depressed about it if you were to read the news and think about, you know, what's happening. And Noel and I had a conversation last week about how heartbreaking it is for our teams that have all been so committed to all of us. But we are very agile and we do adapt really, really quickly, and so do our teams. So I've been really heartened by that and how supportive everybody has been. But I think that my other concern is that everyone's making decisions based in the bubble that they're living in the moment. I was this morning on a call, and I was reflecting on the conversation I'd had with a client, and he was saying that, you know, all at the moment, people are saying, oh, people are going to work from home and this is going to be the new way. However, this is at a time when the golf clubs are closed, the tennis clubs, people are not coming for lunch, shopping's not there, all your jobs are done, everyone's on the same page, and that productivity is up because everyone's focused on the only thing that they've got which is consistent, which is their work. Once you get in all the other interferences of life, then that will change. So I feel that everyone's making a decision based in a bubble. The other thing is, if somebody started with a company and you said, well, you're working from home now, thank you, here's your laptop, off you go, cheerio, what sort of company culture will you get? And there will be no interaction. And as the chap said to me when we were chatting, he said, no one goes to work just to input data or input something else. There's much more to a job than just the job you're doing. It's about the people you work with, the environment, you know, how you're looked after, how you believe in the values of that company. And if you're all working from home, that won't work. So I do get a bit irritated by everyone making decisions at the moment. Oh, everyone's working from home, fine. I've got friends who've got kids at home and they've got all their kids sitting on their dining room table. They cannot wait to get them out of the house. I was talking to my accountant today and he was saying, look, I may spend one day, he said, but actually I don't want to be at home. I want to be at work where my people are, where my team are, where I can be most effective. There is a place, and I think life will adjust anyway, but I think our life has adjusted over the last 30 years, 40 years that I've been doing this. It has never stayed the same. It has always adapted. So you have those that go home, then they bring them back, then they decentralise, then they centralise. So if you look at that, there is a lot that has already happened. And I would just like people to think more positively about the future and the fact that what we're all seeing in this prism of panic will not necessarily be what happens going forward, and to get a bit more real about life in the future.
Thank you, Wendy. It's so nice to hear such positivity, and also kind of pointing out, you know, we are in that bubble. Matthew, what do you think the industry needs to do in terms of the current business models, how they need to change to survive the difficulties of the coming 12 months or longer?
Well, they will have to, in the short term, look at their overhead costs and be very, very prudent with how they're spending money. I think long term, you know, Wendy is right. I think things will recover, but it will take a long time. But I think that there will be certain roles that have been nice to have that won't necessarily be there in the future. I mean, I remember back in the 80s, I worked for a very large company that wasn't making a lot of money in the UK, and they pruned us down to operators, salespeople, and finance people. And the sales document said that they had a huge training department. It was one person for the whole of the UK. And that may well be where we go again, where it's the essential roles are maintained, but all contractors, whether they're the smallest or the biggest, will have to resize their business depending on the marketplace they find them in. So, you know, and we have seen companies already doing it, asking for their senior management to take pay cuts. We've seen other catering companies who have actually furloughed people up to director level. But long term, they will just have to adjust the business model to meet the need that we end up with.
What about you, Wendy? Do you think, what do you think the contract caterers need to do? And obviously you are going to bring in personal experience here to survive the current storm.
I mean, obviously we do need to look at costs. That's something we're doing at the moment, and we're doing that in consultation with our team, who've been fantastic. Really, you know, just wonderful how supportive they've been. So we will look at costs. We're quite, a nimble business, and I think all contract caterers are. You know, we've grown our business from 0 to, you know, plus 50 million in 20 years. So we've adapted every single year. 2008, we had the recession. We adapted at that point. You know, you adapt for large wins, small wins. So for us, I think that adaptation has come quickly, i.e. that most of us have thought about that very soon. We've tried to do the right things by our team. I think what's been really important is that we've communicated with our team, been really honest with them about what the business is going to be like. And even if we have to lose people, then we'll find a way to bring them back eventually at some time and in some way and keep connected to them. I think whilst we sit at the owners of a business or senior in a business, this is impacting on people's real lives, and the way we behave as an industry has got to reflect that we do care about our team. So I think we're agile enough to adapt to it. I think it's something we're really used to. I can see large companies who maybe don't have to move their workforce as much as we do would probably struggle with it. But as contract caterers, quite frankly, we do it every day of the week. And, you know, we make hard decisions if we have to for the better good.
Matthew, a question's just come in around moving contracts, changing the model of them to cost plus. Have you got any views on that?
Yes, I think that a lot of contractors have already been asking to do that. And there has to be some degree of flexibility from both the client and the contractor. Clients are looking for some sort of security, but on the other hand, contractors have to make money. They are in business to make money, and if they are forced into a corner, then they will either pull out of contracts or they will basically not be there. So there has to be some flexibility from the clients as well as from the caterers.
No, what do you think clients want and need right now and going forward in terms of the business model and in the support from the caterer?
Well, the majority of clients that we speak to who've been incredibly supportive, they have all said if they've got a catering operation on site, they want to get their staff back to work. And they see the cafe or the restaurant or whatever it is as almost reflecting the culture of their organization. Now, whilst there are a load of adaptations that are going to have to happen, what they're saying to us is they want their employees to feel safe coming back to work. They see the building as a safe place. The catering operation will need to be very adaptable and agile, multifaceted, perhaps, as Matthew said earlier, maybe earlier morning service, late into the evening, technology playing a huge part in that. All the things that we all have to a larger or lesser extent at our disposal. But clients who are in charge of catering and facilities operations want to get their employees back to work. And that's what gives me a degree of confidence around the future of workplace catering. And because that's certainly the noise that we get. And whilst cost plus or might be a reality for a period of time, particularly in this interim period when arguably we're all in some degree of hibernation, I think as we go forward, that will also start to change quickly as it has done over the last 10 or 15 years. So yeah, I do expect that there will be some changes. But I think our sector has a huge opportunity equally. It does compete with the high street, and the high street has evolved hugely over the last 10, 12 years. You go outside any of the big buildings that we're all lucky enough to service, and you have, a whole plethora of food service operations and cafes from which our customers, the employees and customers can choose. I think going forward, I think some employees will be nervous about going out to the high street for a period of time. And we as a sector and as an organisation have an opportunity, therefore, to try and ensure that we keep them in the buildings. Not quite by locking the doors, by the way, although I have considered that, but primarily by making sure that they feel secure in the building.
So do you think that, I guess picking up on Wendy's point about, we've been working from home, there have been many benefits to it, but there's also many things that we're missing. Do you have that fear that there won't be enough of a customer base, or do you think the office brings so much more?
Well, I'm biased, of course, and I would say the office brings so much more, but I truly think it does. We've been, nearly 3 months now, give or take, working from home in some shape or form. And whilst I presume it's given us time, me included, to enjoy some of the simpler pleasures in life, which you often don't get time to do, I have really missed the connectivity with people, really have, and I know our team have. Whilst they have been absolutely outstanding in terms of their own resilience and the way in which they've worked, I'm really proud of them. But I've really missed the connectivity with customers and clients and our own team. And I think that to some extent that will return. I also go back to Wendy's point. I think we are in a bit of a bubble at the moment. There's a significant part of the UK working population sitting at home today on full pay. And that can't go on. That's not real, is it? That will have to change as the economy starts to open up. So yeah, I do think it will happen. I do think we will get people back to work. Whether we will get back, what the reset is, I don't know. It could be 70%, 80% as we go into next year, perhaps. But I really do think it will start. I do think there'll be a regional influence as well, Karen. I think outside of London might start sooner. I think public transport, specifically in London, is a huge factor and people's nervousness around public transport. And we have to work with UK hospitality and government to ensure that employees feel safe as to how they get to work.
Matthew, how do you think these changes that we've talked about, both from Wendy and from Noel, in workplace behaviour is going to impact the catering offer in the longer term?
I think the catering offer in the longer term is going to continue to improve, where we may go for a short period of time where people cut back on the offer to enable safe distancing in kitchens, because kitchens weren't designed for COVID-19, they were designed for efficiency of equipment. And I know Liz will comment on that later. But, you know, I think that we will see those efficiencies take place. We may see a reduced offer. Unfortunately, some of the things that there's been huge progress on over the last few years, such as minimizing the use of disposables and environmental impact, to some extent, they're going to have to be sacrificed for a short period of time because you won't have self-help salad bars, you won't have self-help vegetables. It will have to be prepackaged, environmentally friendly disposables, but disposables will have to be used for a period of time until we are through this. And then I think we will go back to enhancing the offer and going back to reducing the environmental impact.
Actually, Karen, what's quite interesting is the places that are open or have opened, there is a whole call about, we'll just have sandwiches, we'll just have a simple offer. Within a week, they're back to, actually, we need to have some hot food, because there's this misunderstanding that people want to go back to a lesser offer and want to be, pacified by very simple items. But actually what they do really want is they want good, fresh home food, because they're fed up with their own cooking. They want to have something different. And having hot food is a real important statement to say, look, if you come to work, we're going to look after you. You're not being victimized by having to come back, but actually we're looking after you and we're making sure that you're going to be cared for. So I think that bubble decisions again about, you know, what statement are you making to your customers or your employees about how you will look after, how you care for them, and are you really walking the talk in saying, if you come on site, I will look after you? And that's why I think sometimes people have to think outside of that box a little bit more.
I think Wendy's right there, and the reason I think she's right is because any caring employer is actually going to want to reduce the risk for their employees when they come to work. So by having a really good staff catering offer, it keeps the people in the building rather than them pouring out onto the high street, or where the degree of risk of them picking up virus increases.
And now, Matthew, I've got your recording saying that I'm right. I'm going to treasure that forever.
Noel, what's your view on the food offer? I want to come to Liz, by the way. Liz, I haven't forgotten you. I will come to you in a second about the design. But Noel, I'm interested in your views on the food offer. We have had quite a few questions about, you know, reducing it. Is that a good thing in the long term? Should we be pushing clients down a certain route from a food perspective? What do you think?
Sandwiches, prepackaged foods, grab and go will have a place, but they are not going to fulfill the food offer for the majority of the UK working population in the businesses that we look after. So no, I think hot food, all of that will play a part. You know, we, like everybody else, have been working incredibly hard on thinking through our offer, designing it for the situations that we're in the various different restaurants and, you know, kitchens that definitely weren't designed for COVID-19 by any means, and looking at how we adapt our way through it. We've had a team of people who've done a phenomenal job on working on a new world project, bringing together our sales team and our chefs and our operations teams to look at what would be appropriate as people in order to try and build some degree of confidence with our consumers as we go forward. But I go back to Matthew's point, but to be able to do that, but also perhaps ensure that the client doesn't have to pay a huge amount of more money, because ultimately the whole UK economy is suffering. It's not just hospitality or indeed contract catering. So we can't expect for the longer term that our clients are going to be able to find this magic pot of money to enable everybody to go to cost plus and pay huge subsidies into the future. That's just not sustainable. It may happen for a short period of time. But I think the other thing that's going to be incredibly important, and I think it's a real opportunity for all of us in the UK, is I think if we thought provenance played a part before, I think it'll play an even more, a much larger part going forward. I think people will look and demand seasonality, provenance. They will want to know where the product's coming from, that it is safe, not only safe, but where it's been sourced from, etc. So for those companies who have focused on that previously, huge opportunity to engage the employee stroke consumer in our workplace restaurants.
No, one of the questions that's come in from the audience is around the risk of de-skilling our workforce as we simplify things. What's your thoughts on that? Is it a problem?
I don't think we will de-skill. I think Wendy said earlier, without doubt, we are going to have to make changes within our workforce, which are absolutely, they're the things that keep us all awake at night, because none of us want to do it. People who have stood beside us and helped us build our businesses over many years, we are going to have to make some tough decisions. All of the whole sector will have to do that. But most definitely, we will not be de-skilling. The whole sector, or indeed Baxter Story for that matter, is not talking about moving to a complete outsource model. Delivered in, etc., will play a part, but a part in the overall dynamic of providing a rounded, great food and beverage offer so we can retain the employees in the building, in our cafes and restaurants. I don't think that's de-skilling. I think that'll be about ensuring that we can create fresh product in a safe way in every restaurant that we operate.
And I think over this period, everyone's taken a much more bigger interest in cooking, where they're getting it from. And, Noel's right about, where stuff comes from. They will continue to order more locally. So I think people will have more of an interest in what we're doing. So I think it's really silly to think about, dumbing down the quality. In fact, what we need to do is heighten the quality, the innovation, the creativity, making sure that those customers want to come in. And also because our team have been sat at home for 3 months coming up with wild and wonderful ideas, the stuff that they've been sharing on our internal communication is just amazing. So by the time we get back, there will be new ways of working. But I think that's also really exciting because it gives much more opportunity for bringing things forward, probably at a quicker pace than we would have done before. But I've got every confidence in our team that they'll be able to adapt to that. And the customers, I think, are ready for it too.
Matthew, there's another question come in, which many of you could answer this, but I'll come to you first, just around the medium term, new contracts, retenders, contract extensions. Where do you see the market from that perspective?
I think the behaviour of contractors over the last 3 months will affect their relationship with their clients going forward. The ones who have behaved ethically, fairly, tried to help their clients will have built a stronger relationship. Where they haven't necessarily behaved to the highest standard, they might find challenges. The difficulty will be that, as Noel said, it's not just the catering industry that's being affected by this. It's the whole of British industry. So all companies will start looking at their costs, and they will look at their catering costs. Maybe not in the next 3 months, but in the 6, 9, in a year. And then I think you will see an increase in tenders, and I think it will be more price orientated for some clients than it was in the past.
Noel, I could see you nodding away there. Have you got a view on it?
Yeah, I do. I think Matthew's raised a very good point in relation to, we've all been under an immense amount of pressure over the last 3 or 4 months. Our teams, our clients have as well. And I am sure in certain situations, there've had to be some, fairly honest and open discussions, whether it be to do with the job retention scheme, whether it be to do with outstanding payments from clients, whatever it is, there will have had to be some tough discussions along the way. So I think those who have behaved in a honest, transparent way, professional way, I think they will come through this. Others will find it a little bit more difficult, perhaps, to continue those relationships with those individual clients. I think it also depends. The market, in terms of the next 6 to 9 months, depends on who you speak to. It sort of seems to change by the week, really. Some of the larger companies who maybe were looking at tendering may look to extend their contracts for a period of time, just so they have more certainty on what it is that they're tendering, which certainly helps. But there certainly still is. I was talking to our UK sales director this morning. I'm sure he wasn't having me on, but there still seems to be a good degree of activity happening in the market. So I think it'll be a mixture for sure. But as we head into next year, maybe second quarter, I think you'll see activity start to move up gear in relation to tendering, etc.
Wendy, I can see you smiling away as well. What are your thoughts?
Only because my team have had 2 site visits within the last couple of weeks. So there's definitely those that want to look to tender will do. The larger ones, I think that's a bigger problem at the moment while they figure out their estates. But I think that people have not had time at the moment to think about it. Now they've got their ducks in the row, they're sort of clear about what they're doing, thinking about changes for the future. I think there will always be tender opportunity. It tends to go in waves anyway, but I think that there's definitely a need for the clients to think about their catering, whether retain their existing or to look at new opportunities. So I think the world will carry on and it will move forward. So we just have to be mindful of where it is in relationship to cost. But then in lots of other cases, you see that our clients have been massively supportive of the case beyond what we would expect for them to do with the catering team. It's been extraordinary. So I think that there's been lots of great stories out there as well. It's not all doom.
I promised Liz that we could come to you and to the design, give everybody a little bit of a rest, and let's have a. There's certainly questions coming in about the design of kitchens. Are they COVID proof? Noel pointed out that many kitchens haven't been designed for the current situation. In terms of now, what sort of adaptations can be made to the kitchen to enable chefs to work at social distance and to work potentially at different hours, at different times? What's your thoughts?
Right, is that me?
Yes, please.
Right, okay. Yeah, I think there's quite a few measures that we can put in place. However, it breaks down into 3 areas as far as I'm concerned. It's the air we breathe, and it's the people and the surfaces we touch. Kind of encapsulate, in my view, what they're dealing with. So I think personally, we're going back to first principles of design, funnily enough. We're almost going back to how things used to be a long time ago, where we had controlled staff entry. We had areas that were for hygiene stations for staff as they came in. So there was a clear demarcation of when they entered the building, that this is where they wash their hands, this is where changing happened, this is where, before they actually entered the kitchen. There are areas where PPE needs to now be put on and managed. So there's a lot more controlled areas, I think, that have to be created in kitchens. When it comes to delivering the food and the preparation, it's almost like a time and motion exercise. I don't know if any of you guys have actually gone through that, where you've looked at your menu, then you've looked at how that food's going to be produced in the kitchen and seen where those pinch points, cross flows might occur, so that the equipment can be adjusted or work zones can be created so that actually that's really reduced as much as possible. Certainly in terms of, if you've got a chef producing something from start to finish, then that's a controlled way of producing a piece of food. So involving as few people as possible, perhaps in that process, can help. But I think it's been mentioned before, flexibility has got to be the key. And that means having flexibility in the kitchen to move things around. Because I agree with Wendy that I think we're in a bubble at the moment, but I'm actually a positive person. And I actually think, bearing in mind the Spanish flu epidemic, there was quarantining and all sorts of things like that after the First World War, but it didn't take long for humans to go back to their gregarious nature, which is we want to be together and we want to socialise. And I think over time, if we don't get another virus hit over the next 2 years, I think people will start getting confidence again and actually start wanting to revert back. So I believe operations need to have that flexibility to be able to respond rapidly to the government requirements, but also to what customers are now beginning to look for. So I don't know if you guys agree with that, but that's how I think kitchen design needs to be looked at. Also technology, and I saw there's a question coming on that earlier. Technology, I think in the future, it already is, but potentially could play obviously a much more significant part in kitchens. It's been a bugbear of mine for a long time that I can go in kitchens and there's not one data point in the kitchen. It absolutely baffles me. We're in the 21st century and there's no data connection. Because equipment now has the capability to talk to each other, remote access. I mean, chefs can switch on ovens from home. There's so much out there now that can be used to reduce the amount of interaction. And actually also, if staff are being kind of in bubble groups, so you've got this group working this day and maybe another group because you've had to reduce the number in the space because you haven't got a big enough space to operate in, then in a way, to be able to manage things remotely is actually going to be quite a useful tool moving forward, perhaps. So, I mean, they're just a few thoughts. So I don't know if anyone's got any feedback on that.
It was interesting what you said about the communication. I spoke to a chef who went back to work for the first time, back into a commercial kitchen last week, and they said it was almost like a game of navigating a game of Pac-Man, as in you could walk down one aisle and then across in there, but you had to keep talking about what you were doing and warning people of what was about to come up and when you were going to need a particular oven or a particular piece of equipment. But they said, they put those plans in place, they discussed in advance, and it worked really well for them.
Yeah.
If you, I was just going to say that actually, because back to the story, we're doing Amazon, which is a large office that's been working throughout, as we've had places working. And what's been interesting is the sitting on the UK hospitality, as you know, and back to the story, Compass, everybody are part of that, which has been fantastic. We've all fed in how our teams have worked and put together guidelines that have gone to government, which is saying this is how we can work safely. And the feedback from government health and safety was actually we had gone beyond and above as an industry to show that we can work really safely. And that's not us saying from a high level, this is how it should be done. This is our teams actually showing us what is important and how to make it work and how to make sure it is safe. And most importantly, that they're comfortable being back at work in the kitchens.
Liz, do you think this is going to change the design of kitchens in the longer term? Or do you think we get through this and people, like you said, forget about it? Or do you think it's been long enough and impacting businesses enough that we will consider this for potentially a second spike or another virus situation in 2 years' time?
Yeah, going back to that flexibility point, I mean, I was actually speaking to a guy who actually runs a pub, and they're actually putting some equipment into storage currently because they need to create more space. So what they've done effectively is adapt their menu currently for a click and collect service and a delivery service, but as a result, they're actually having to reduce the size reduce the amount of equipment actually in space. So it's been put into storage with the view that as social distancing is relaxing and as we move out of this, equipment can be reinstalled and reinstated. So I think it's we don't actually know what this is going to look like. So all we can do now is respond to where we're at. But I think building in the infrastructure for, as I said earlier, more technology, and potentially look at equipment that can offer those technological advantages is something we can be doing in the interim, and actually see in the future how potentially we might be able to embrace those in our kitchen.
Technology is something I wanted to pick up on actually with everybody, because everybody keeps talking about we're going to use more technology to get through this. Liz has also talked about it from a kitchen perspective. Wendy, I've seen news articles about you guys looking more at technology and various solutions. Do you think technology is going to be the way forward for you?
Well, it's not the way forward, it's the way we are now. Our payroll, pay slips are on apps, the health and safety is on app, all our training is done online, all the communication means I can talk to every single person, you know, from the head chef up to the kitchen porter. Everyone's got a voice because of that technology. There isn't one part of our business that isn't technically, you know, connected. I've got my 100% badge on my training record card. I'm very proud of that, actually. That was very hard. You know, technology's already here. The only thing I find quite interesting is this prepay. We've all had that technology before, but customers like the interaction with the customers. They like to look at their deli bar, come and have a think about it. So you don't really get much uptake. So what I'd be interested in, I think there'll be a spike in its use, and you know what time places are busy, all that sort of thing. But I'd be interested to know in a year's time if people are still using it, because people are social animals. They want to come down and chat to the coffee maker about, you know, the latest coffee brand or whatever it is. So I'm actually quite looking forward to seeing where that goes in a year's time. It's already here, so.
No,
Sorry.
Go on.
Okay. Just coming back with one other technology thing is about managing tasks. I mean, there's a lot of task management software out there, which again, one could manage a task to see how well a kitchen has actually been sanitized and cleaned and the regularity of it. And I think maybe some operators will start to embrace that technology a bit more, so they can monitor more closely, because that also provides an audit trail, which in turn inspires confidence in the customers.
Noel, do you think you'll be taking some more technology into the kitchen, or changing any of your approaches to the business, with the answer being technology?
Before I answer that, Karen, can we ask before the end of the call a proof of Wendy's 100%?
I shall send you my badge. I'm very proud of it.
Merit in our training, because I can't believe that for a moment. Technology plays a big part in what we do. It'll play a bigger part for a short period of time, but the reason our customers come to us is that they want to engage in many cases with the employees, our frontline staff, and they want to see the food on offer, and they want to make a choice. Now, for a period of time, whether it be click and collect or prepay or all the other facets that we all have in various guises, that will play a part. So from a consumer point of view, I think it'll be important. It'll be important in terms of consumer confidence that we all have those in our kit bag, so to speak, now and into the future. It always struck me, somebody once told me that they felt it was easier to order food to their desk from Deliveroo than it was from any of the catering organisations in buildings, which struck a chord with me. And I think we've all worked hard to try and make sure we can address that. But I think Liz's point in terms of back of house as well in the kitchens, I think technology can play an even bigger part there. I'm pleased to say, Karen, I'm delighted your chefs that you knew were talking to each other, which will certainly aid communication. But I do think that technology in terms of menu planning, etc., all of those things, allergens, etc., all of those, whilst they're in place at the moment, I think we could all probably move up a gear with that, without taking away, and this is really important, what technology mustn't do is take away from our ability and our adaptability to be able to move with the times and to be able to enhance our menus on a daily basis.
Liz, you're nodding away there. Is there anything else you just want to share from a design perspective that we should be considering right now?
I think something that's quite important, and again another bugbear of mine, we're hitting them all, is ventilation. I said earlier, the air we breathe. Now, there's been best practice design for ventilation in commercial kitchens for some time, but I know an awful lot that don't meet that. Now, I think air that we breathe is important, how that air is circulated, how it's actually brought into the kitchen. There's loads of instances where contaminated air is actually being brought into the kitchen through the supply air. Now, getting technical here, but that means that people in kitchens, the kitchen is no longer that protected bubble that it used to be. And I think there needs to be a bit more government guidance and support on that area, so that, you know, and we've got to work in conjunction with the M&E people as well, with CIBSE, with all of these organisations as well, to sort of improve that. So the air we're breathing is clean.
Thank you, Liz. I'm just going to go to some of the questions that have come in. One of them is around the high street and how contract caterers in B&I can compete with the high street. I think we've already mentioned that there's advantages to keeping people in the building. Noel, Wendy, any thoughts on what you're going to do to tackle that?
Yeah, I've got to be a bit careful what I say here, because we also have Benugo, which is our high street operation. So, yeah, we learn a lot from them. I go back to the earlier point. I think the high street, we know, is suffering at the moment. I think it's going to continue to suffer for a period of time. There's an argument that maybe the high street was oversubscribed in terms of catering in certain areas for a period of time, so there'll be a degree of a reset going on, but there will be some casualties. For the present, I think our opportunity is for people to come into buildings, for them to feel that they have the choice of food, the creativity, the provenance of product, and the adaptability, I can't say that word anymore, can I? And the flexibility of an offer that will allow them to be able to stay in the building rather than necessarily go out. And I seriously think there is a huge opportunity for our whole sector to be able to nail that over the coming 6 months at least, whilst the high street tries to find its place and get back and give consumers confidence.
I agree with Noel. I think that, you know, that we've always been in competition with the high street, and but in some ways we offer a different solution to the high street for people, because our customers don't change. Our offer has to, and there's more offer choice out on the high street, more specific. So I think there's a place for both, but I think at the moment, and while people are nervous, I think actually providing catering in a business is a really important part to their journey of coming back to work, and an important comfort, really. One of my clients was saying that, you know, his friends positively get jealous at the fact that he gets different, you know, served food at work at a lunchtime, and they're, you know, prone to the same soggy cheese sandwich at lunch at home every day. So I think there's a great deal of kudos to companies offering catering at the moment in-house.
Karen, sorry, just to add to that, I was out yesterday actually in the business, and I went into a Pret just to have a look at their operation, and Pret's been it's done amazingly well over many years. But I went in and I looked at their queuing operation, etc. But with no disrespect to Pret, I felt sorry for them because it was absolutely soulless. It was it really was difficult for them, and I think the high street will struggle to adapt in that regard. Because how do you recreate the atmosphere, the buzz, when you are trying to ensure social distancing, etc., in what might be a very, very small footprint? It's difficult.
Yeah, definitely. Another question that's come in around, I think, a concern about training and development, and is it going to get overlooked? It's probably picked up from Matthew's point earlier. Noel, you've got a view on that?
Well, absolutely not.
Yeah, very much so. I understand why Matthew said what he did, because he was looking across, right across the whole sector. I think those companies that fail to invest in training and development at the moment and over the next 6 to 9 months will be the companies who will really end up struggling as a result, because we talk about large waves of unemployment, etc., but the business and the sector will recover over time. And if we don't invest in training, continue to invest in training and development now, and it might be we do it in a slightly different way, online, and all of the various ways we have of doing so. The businesses who fail to do that now will be the businesses genuinely who will suffer in terms of attracting and retaining good employees into the future, in my view, personal view.
Liz?
Yeah. Do you think there'll be staff will be multi-skilled now, that there'll be a training to actually cross-skill people? Sorry,
yeah. Was that to me, Liz?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think perhaps with the exception of chefs, when we tried to get them front of house onto the counters and ensure they were smiling, that took a little bit of work for a period of time. But no, they adapted well. I think quite a lot of our teams are already, Liz. I mean, you know, we're seeing at the moment definitely a decline in terms of hospitality and events sales. I think that's going to continue perhaps for the rest of this year, at least until the last quarter. And therefore, we're moving people around who may have been providing fine dining or hospitality before, and now we are retraining them in other facets of the business. So yeah, I think it will continue, and but I do think it's a continuation rather than any major change to that. We've had a couple of sites and locations where we have actually taken responsibility for some of the, what I'd call light touch housekeeping or cleaning within the restaurant. I'm not talking about deep cleaning, I'm talking about some of the softer touches, etc. within there. So we've retrained some staff to be able to do that so we can retain them. But yeah, I think multi-skilling people has always been embedded in our sector, and I think it'll continue to be.
I just want to come back to Noel. I wasn't saying that I disagree with training. I think training is passionately important and people have to be trained and skilled and developed. I think the issue was that what happens is if things become financially challenging, people look at everything that is non-core business. Now, you may say training's core business. It's investment for the future, but actually, if it's a matter of do I have an additional trainer or do I go into a deficit, you get rid of the additional trainer. I mean, you know, there's some people in very nice roles, you know, chef directors and creative directors and things. They're expensive people, you know, and even scenarios where you have, joint managing directors.
Oh, watch out, Noel.
Yeah, I know. Actually, I need, you know. Matthew, I need to go. My consultation starts in a moment, so.
But also, training has changed so much now. The training that you do within the opportunities for training are so greater, especially with the online. And the other thing, actually, no, well, this is a conversation we were having the other day. Are those people, you know, maybe some people will have life-changing moments through this period, and they may have been artists and then want to pursue that. And I think we've got a responsibility to help people find those other directions as well that maybe they want, because life will change for a lot of us going forward, and it's about being positive and adding to that community and giving everyone the right choice and the right tools for what they want to do. And I think that's really important for us to embrace going forward.
Thank you. I've got, I think we've probably got through as many questions as we can in terms of time. So I'd like to just ask everybody on the panel one more question. I want to end on a positive. Wendy started this very much on a positive for us. And it's, think about everything that's happened over the last 3 months. Think about our industry, B&I contract catering. What positives can we take from this situation for the industry going forward? And I'll start with Noel, if that's okay.
2 things, if I may. One is, I think during the last few months, we have seen our sector come together like never before, and that's definitely a positive. I've probably spoken to Wendy and some of our other competitors more in the last 3 to 4 months than I had done in the last 3 to 4 years, potentially. I think there's been some incredible acts of kindness shown from our sector, broad sector, us included, to local communities, and I think that will definitely continue, as it will. And I think our investment in people be it apprenticeships, be it our investment in people as we go forward, will be absolutely critical to our success.
Thank you. What about you, Matthew? Positives from this situation?
We will come through it. You know, we will come through it. We will be in a situation. It may take a year, it may take 2 years, but we will come through this. This is, you know, this is not the end of the world. This is a challenge, and people have had challenges all through history, and we will come through it. We will come out stronger. The industry will be better, and you know, hopefully we will get back to higher levels of employment for everybody, because you know the unemployment figures look, you know, don't look good, but it will recover. Absolutely, Carol.
Thank you. Liz, how about you? Positives from the last few months that we can take forward?
Well, I think to slightly echo Noel, I think we've realised that people matter. It's not just about a bottom line all the time. This is actually people, it's about lifestyles, it's about well-being as well. Yeah. And I think well-being in our industry is important, that we value not only just the customers, but also the poor guys who have to work in it as well.
And finally, Wendy, help us finish on a positive as well as you started it.
Well, I just think everyone's been spectacularly amazing. I've just come across so many incidents. So, you know, I get kitchen porter writing to me saying, Wendy, I just want to check you're okay. How are you dealing with all this? And I think, you know, there are some amazing people out there. And as Noel said, at UK Hospitality, we've really worked hard to get our point made. And I asked all my team to write to the MPs, and I must have had over 200 emails from our team saying they've written to the MP, here's the letters. And it shows that if we pull together, that, you know, we're an amazing force, and that with our teams behind us, we will achieve, you know, great things going forward. So it's not all doom and gloom. You know, things keep me awake like everybody else. But overall, I think there has been more positives and great stories out of it than I would have imagined at the beginning of it. So.
Fantastic. Well, all I can do now is say thank you for everyone who joined today. And of course, to our fabulous panel, Liz, Wendy, Noel and Matthew. We have been recording this session and we will send it out to everyone who registered, so you can share it with your colleagues. I know there's been some people who really want to listen in and haven't been able to. But for now, I just wish you to take care, and we look forward to seeing you perhaps on another webinar, but more hopefully out and about in the industry very soon. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you for organising. Thank you very much.